It's been a while, and now I'm a little bit flustered because I was just doing this like half an hour ago, and apparently it didn't save the voiceover, so now I have to do it over again. So that sucks, but I'm here. Yeah, this is the first drawing video I've done in a while. I kind of fell out because the world got crazy. You know, there was the pandemic, and then after the Breonna Taylor and George Floyd shootings and the, ensuing protests and uprisings, I just haven't been thinking of making art as much, I guess. I've done a little bit here and there, but, when the world is crazy, it makes you not think so much about things like this. But I do need to focus on my own projects and my creative stuff, so I'm glad to be back and getting this video ready for all of you. I decided to do a picture of one of my favorite artists this week. You could see on my phone there that it's a picture of Keith Haring. He was one of the biggest artists of the 1980s. And what I really admire about him, I guess, is that he was really focused on bringing his art to the public and to people. Like, from his subway drawings on, he really just focused on getting that stuff out there in a way that was just like direct and immediate to the people in the city around him. He was really influenced by graffiti art as it was really like coming up, and he was a big part of the reason it was brought to the mainstream art world and recognized as a significant art movement. And he had some problematic things about him, like anybody does, but everyone who knew him said he was a very genuine person, and he was really trying to just be helpful and loving and do the best he could in the world. He was born in a town called Kutztown in Pennsylvania, I believe. Just a smaller city somewhere, and lived a pretty, normal American life of that time period. And he seemed to always know that this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to be an artist. So when you want to be an artist, usually family members will try to push you towards commercial art and graphic art. So when he turned 18, he went to school in Pittsburgh, I believe. Did he go to the same school where Andy Warhol went, I believe? Yeah. And from there, he went ahead and transferred to New York. And once he got to New York, it was one of those kind of right place, right time moments where it's just everything exploding around him. I think he got there in like 78 or 79. So just the world was changing, and punk had just come out, and like the city was so cheap and falling apart that all these artists had moved there and were really like just changing the way everything was done. But yeah, he, by all accounts, was a really open and friendly and loving person, and he would just seek people out and that he found interesting, like all the graffiti artists. One of the greatest stories about him is the whole LA2 thing. He found this 14-year-old boy who he had seen his tags around, and he really liked them, and he got the kid to collaborate with him. And then when he sold some of the work, he just gave this kid half of the money for the work, which was a significant amount of money, like $1,000 I think on the first one, I don't remember. And went and met his mom, because obviously somebody gives your kid a bunch of money, you want to know who they are. And he even took him to Japan later, and just random New York kid, from, the kid's like, I was on welfare and my mom let me go do all this stuff, which is pretty rad of her. But yeah, Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat are probably my two favorite artists of all time. They were contemporary and even acquaintances, friends, sort of, I guess, in that same scene. There are a lot of people that came out of that scene. That's really like what influenced me the most. filmmakers and the artists and the musicians of that era and that place. No wave music, even the pop music, like I like Madonna, and she was friends with Keith Haring. I believe that Keith Haring was invited to her wedding with Sean Penn and brought Andy Warhol as his date. Fun little trivia. Yeah, he would sign everybody's notebooks and jackets and just spend time like talking to people on the street, and I don't know, I just really like that about him. There's an artist that I know in Albuquerque, her name's Ro Libretto, and she told me a story once about being in New York when she was younger with her son in the 80s, and her son was a child, and they went and met Keith at some community center or something, I believe she said. She just said he was really friendly and talked to her son and did a drawing for him, and just, by all accounts, he really loved kids and cared about people. I know he did a bunch of murals on children's hospitals and schools and projects with children, because kids just flow in a way that adults don't do, and he really loved that. Yoko Ono tells a story of him sitting at the kids' table, like at the party and stuff like that, and doing a painting for her son. Yeah, I just got done rereading the authorized biography that came out right after he died. He died of AIDS in the early 90s. I think he was, 32? But he did so much in his life, and I don't know. I don't know how some people just go like that, just are so prolific, because I'm kind of the one who has to kick myself to get it out and really push. I've had friends who are like that, where it's just nonstop, but that's not my style. I really like the way all the highlighters and the markers and the Sharpies and everything play together. I didn't used to like drawing, but over the last few years I've really gotten into it. And rather than using art markers, specifically fine art markers or anything like that, I kind of enjoy just finding weird random markers that weren't meant for art. Sometimes I'll buy the big plastic bags of pens and markers at the thrift shop or things like that, and just try them all out and see if I find anything I like. Even the ones that are they're not indelible, the little kids markers, I like those sometimes, because you can run over them with a wet paintbrush and kind of spread them out like watercolor. It's a neat effect. I don't lay down and pencil my template before I go. I just kind of like to wing it, and oftentimes that'll lead to asymmetry in my drawings, or little bits where they're just not quite right. But I kind of like the way that goes, and rather than having this picture perfect portrait, I've got something that's a little bit more unique and has a little bit more of a style that you can recognize as mine. And lately I've been doing a lot of pictures in just a few colors, mostly pink, purple, and blue. This one I think is all pink and blue, not even purple in it at all. And I enjoy the way it looks, but I feel like it's, becoming a little bit limiting. So I think next time I do something, I might try to stay away from that a little bit and do a little more than just those few colors. But for this one, I think it turns out alright. Right now you can't tell because it's halfway done. When the art's halfway done, it kind of often looks like a mess. Oh, there we go. Yeah, getting the darker blue to get the shadow in. I like to layer it up and go over it. Yeah, it's been a strange time the past couple of months. I had been intending to just put out videos regularly, but I didn't know the world was about to shut down when I started making videos in March or whenever that was, right before the COVID-19 shutdowns began here where I'm at. I was just like, oh, I'll just make videos and I can just go interview people and do stuff, and nope, quarantine. It's part of why I think there were so many drawing videos that I made. Also, I just like the drawing videos because it's something that I can set up and then just sit there and do, and I don't have to feel really intensely pressured about them. Although I will say, I don't know what it is about it, but maybe because I'm so focused on making the video, I feel like oftentimes the drawings that I make while I'm filming don't come out as well as the drawings I do when I'm just kind of hanging out and drawing by myself. I think it's because like I'm so focused on, you know, sitting here and holding the notebook straight and getting everything captured on video. And you know, if you get hours and hours of video, that's a lot to deal with, so I'm trying to go fast. And I think that kind of puts me in a position where I end up with a picture that's not as good as it might have been otherwise, but that's okay. It's still a fun experiment, and I still like the way the videos come out. Ooh, I used some magenta ink here to do the skin. I like the way that came out. I think it came out pretty good. Yeah, besides just the drawings, I've been really meaning to get back and do the next issue of my zine. The last one came out just before Punk Rock Bowling last year, and it's now been, 13, 14 months, something like that, which is par for the course for the way I operate. Part of it is that I really want to get together a big quality like book this time. Like normally I'll just do 12 or 16 pages, but I really want to put together a zine that's like 50 pages or more this time. Something heavy, but I'll sit down and I'll write something and I'll be like, that's pretty good, and then after a few days I start second guessing myself and thinking, oh, I shouldn't put that in, I don't know, and then I don't end up doing a whole lot with what I've written, or I feel bad about it, and I think I've just got to get past that self-conscious stage and get to a place where I'm like, you know what, it's fine, and put it out. And the other thing too is it's not like I have to put out a zine that's all writing. I could put out a zine that's all drawings as long as it's grayscale, you know. Color zines throughout, that gets a little expensive, but yeah, I could do like 50 cartoons, or I could do poems or something. Oh yeah, I got I got a new typewriter, like a new old typewriter recently at the thrift shop. It's a 1946 Royal Magic Margin, which is the typewriter you see in every TV show that's set in like the 1940s where somebody's typing. But it was filthy, but it's functional and it has a ribbon and it still works, so I would like to use it. My little TV VCR took a crap on me yesterday and tried to take one of my tapes with it, so I went ahead and chucked that in the garbage, and now in its place on the old telephone stand where it lived, I put the typewriter, so it's probably for the best. I don't need to have a TV. I don't need that TV. I've got another TV and I've got a computer. I watch too much TV anyway. I've also been cooking more since the COVID thing and trying to take care of my health, because I was so bad about it this past year, just with that whole nesting phase. But I've started cooking a lot more at home, and it's funny because it's like, I always feel like, oh, I don't know how to cook, but then it's like, I'm an adult, been around a while, you kind of figure out what flavors go together, and then you just try to cook them up, and you're like, oh, that actually turned out pretty well. So that's fun. Yeah, for this picture, I didn't want to just leave the plain white background, because I do that so much, and it's just lazy. But I didn't know what to put, so I at the very least filled it in with the black India ink. And yeah, it's still pretty plain, but at least it's not just white paper. This is also the first one where I used the masking tape, and it's not, you know, fancy artist's masking tape. It's just the shitty kind you get at the dollar store, so I had to press it on the blanket so it wouldn't be so sticky, and you'll see when it pulls up, there's a part where it didn't work out so well and the ink ran a little bit, so it's still alright. It still looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way this picture came out. I mean, there are a few little things that bug me, like I can see that one of his eyes is off, and I could have done more detail. Like I said, it feels rushed to me, but for a rushed picture, I think it came out not too bad. And I could always do a more in-depth Keith Haring portrait at a later date. But man, yeah, I gotta work on my backgrounds. That black is just getting a little bit too lazy. Alright, so we're done, and let's see. I'll show you what the finished product looks like here in just a second. But the tape peeled off. There it is. Well, thanks for watching, and don't forget to click the subscribe and the bell notification. Leave me a comment. It helps.